My name is Monica White. I reside in Idaho. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Elevate Academy today. Just a quick synopsis to get us kicked off. Elevate's a 6th through 12th grade charter school for at-risk students. A lot of people call them Youth of Promise, different things like that. But essentially, it's disenfranchised kids and kids that are on the trajectory to potentially drop out of school. And how I got here, I worked in an alternative school, and I felt like daily I was banging my head on a wall. And the reason we were banging our heads on a wall is my partner and I, we would get to graduation date. We'd graduate 80 kids. We'd cross every T. We dotted every I. We're super competitive. We'd figured out the game, and we were successful at the game. But what the game didn't do was recognize the true needs of the kids. All it did was look at metrics on a dashboard. So go back to that graduation date, and say 80 students are graduating, and of those 80, I'd ask 75 what's next, and none of them had an answer. And we'd look at each other, and we failed. We failed the students. We failed what we've done. We look really amazing in all the metrics in the eyes of the state, et cetera, but we weren't. We weren't doing a good job of anything when it came to the longevity of getting the kids to that next step and where they need to go in life. So Elevate Academy was born. I planned on building Elevate Academy in my hometown of Caldwell, Idaho, with the assistance of our mayor. He said, "You two aren't leaving our town. We want and need your vision here." He's going to keep us there. And it went like wildfire once we had the first school built. And we're one of the very few schools in Idaho, because the districts are still very charter adverse. Oftentimes in Idaho, it's hard, and we can have a district authorize us if we want to, other than the state authorizer. That really didn't happen. Now we have districts coming to us and saying, "We want your school." Number one, we solve two problems. We help their dropout rate, which I'm okay with. And the second one is we catch a lot of the students that we're going to drop out anyways, and help turn them into productive members of their community. So with that, my one school in Caldwell, Idaho, and my path towards retirement turned into now a lot more gray hair, and we opened our fourth school in Idaho Falls in August. And then we just started and hired our fellow for our fifth school in Twin Falls, Idaho, so it'll open in 2026. Start with YCTE. The guy that you see up there with the Elevate North hat, that's my co-founder, Matt. This is like our prize picture, and the reason we put it up there, we really believe in finding the genius in every kid. And so part of the problem in the traditional at-risk school we worked at is a kid had failed math. What do? We take out the math, and we don't take out the math, we add more math, and then they lose their electives. Well, oftentimes what they're really, really good at is the electives. So we said, how do we create a system where we can focus on the genius of every single student and not just punish them for what they're not good at? And oftentimes what we found is if you find the genius part, all of a sudden they start to be good at math because they need it in the trades, et cetera. So this is our prize picture. Reason being, those two students that you see there, they were part of our first big graduating class. A couple months after graduation, we were touring our next campus, and they were actually running the wires for the electrician in the new Elevate Academy in their new job. So this is our full circle moment and what keeps us going and going and going. The other thing with CTEs, it's a win-win for community and schools. We often know students in poverty never leave the 10-block radius they were born in. And so I fought that paradigm for years. I fought it. Let's get them out. We quit fighting in it, and we said, what's within that 10 blocks that they can actually thrive and contribute and still be comfortable, which then down the road could lead them outside of that 10 blocks. And we've seen that over and over. So when we develop career tech ed schools, we develop them within the trades that suit that community. So we're not just a plug and play in every community. Every school looks a little bit different in the trades so that it's for the students in that community. Obviously, it's highly engaging for students, and I said, ask about our unique approach to curriculum, because that's like a 2-hour talk all on its own, so we're going to skip it today. But then, at the end of the day, we call it our 80 for 80 wall now, and that comes from the first story I told you. When we graduate a student, they have to have 2 industry certifications, they have to have a high school diploma, and most importantly, they have to have determined what their next step is. They have to have signed with a company, have to have a job lined up, have to be enrolled in a tech school or in a 4-year school. When I say enrolled, I'm not just talking like, I'm going to go to Boise State University. No, you've got to be enrolled. You have to have your down payment. You have to have your financial plan figured out. You have to have your housing figured out, because otherwise we don't see it through. So we make sure that all those things are in place. So let's talk facilities first. When building and replicating career tech ed, as you can imagine, it's much more expensive, right? So one of the first things that is recommended is you figure out programmings and what you're going to do. When we build our schools, we try to get a variety of stuff so we can hit a lot of different interests, knowing that the students are going to come from all different areas and going to want all different things. But that comes with two things. The first one is space. You got to put a lot of square footage out there to put a construction shop. The shop we just built in our new campus in Idaho Falls actually will fit a combine in it, because it's a big agricultural community. So they wanted it built so we could fit a combine in it. So space, and then obviously that comes with cost. But the other thing that comes with a lot of cost is the equipment. Just alone right now in our Idaho Falls campus, they have a big machining, and it's top of mind. So I'll probably talk most about that one right now. They have a machining program, huge manufacturing over there. There's a couple companies over there that actually build the potato harvesters. I know Idaho is famous for potatoes. There's a reason we have a lot of them. But they build the potato harvesters. They're actually going to equip our shop there with approximately, I want to say there's going to be about $400,000 of equipment donated by that company so that the kids can learn how to make the parts for the machines that go into building a potato harvester and create a partnership through that. So there's two different ways that we look at that when we're looking at facilities. Number one is, how do we create the space where kids, and let's face it, oftentimes in communities, at-risk students get the bottom of the barrel building within a school. I taught in one. I know it was like the last school. We'll put the kids there. We'll get them what they need and get them going. We really committed that when we built Elevate, we were going to give them the nicest, shiniest, fanciest place so they could have pride in it. And every kid deserves that. Every single kid deserves that. And so with that, as you're looking at all this different space, obviously in our classroom spaces, we developed so that they're all collaborative. You could see a few shots of the hallways in those. We have, I think, 18-foot hallways. There's garage doors on every single classroom door because we do everything project and group based. So we put a lot of very intentional work into our facilities so that every space in our entire school is considering a learning space or learning environment. So that's on the academic side. Then we flip over to the shop side. We do that with pre-engineered metal building. And every one of them looks a little bit different depending on what it is. One thing we've been very blessed and fortunate with, and again, back to partnerships, this can be so huge in this entire conversation. We have a local guy that builds pre-engineered metal buildings, and he's given me 4 now, and he plans on giving me a 5th. So that saves us about $800,000 in construction costs because he gives us the shell. He doesn't give us anything on the inside, but all the metal walls, all the metal roof, all the foundational, and all the stuff that goes into that. So we have to plan for much larger costs in even a traditional charter school, but we do a lot of work on pulling in other resources to create that stack. And then you have to be able to convince funders, everybody else, why your per pupil cost is so much higher because of what you're going to offer, but make sure obviously that you can support that on the backside and what you do. And so when we create our debt stack to build facilities, we're lucky to have a local philanthropy group. I think they alluded to it this morning in the kickoff. The Joe and Catherine Albertson Family Foundation has partnered with Building Hope, and we have about $32 million in a revolving fund that is recycled by our Idaho charter schools. So I can really get that sub debt to pay that down. So that's kind of a big way that we do that. And then we have a couple other people that come in and help us out as well. So the biggest takeaway from our facilities is you have to plan for more if you're going to build career tech, and you have to find a way. So with that, we've got a team that understands that vision. We had to build them really purposefully because it is a lot more money than just the square footage per price and per pupil, especially in Idaho. I don't know nationwide stats, but it's really about building that team. And I've used the same team for my last 3 schools, and I'll continue. It's a little bit different than my first school. But once you build the team and you understand, you don't have to keep telling the same story either, right? They get it. They get you. They know it's going to cost less. They know you have a finite budget and we got to cut costs everywhere we can. Let's talk community partnerships because I know there was a lot of questions out there, okay? We're always asking the question, who needs us as much as we need them? Reason being is it has to be a win-win to be a true partnership. Like I can't just take, and not give back. It doesn't matter. So the first one we talk about is the workforce. That's the no-brainer in career tech ed, right? Workers are in a shortage. We kind of giggle now because when we started this school, everybody thought we were absolutely crazy for starting a CTE school. Now it's like the buzzword everywhere I go. And we were looked at, and the state has even adopted more policies to get more money into career tech ed. There's a lot of industry push. There's a lot of those kinds of things. We find people that collaborate with us too that are also community minded. It can't just be we're showing up to the door because we want your kids, we want your kids. We find the people who want our kids, they're going to treat our kids right and they're going to help them grow up. So our goal is to get them in there their junior, senior year, and they're part of that transition plan with them as well. So it's familiar, they know them, and they go. And then here was the classic one. I know nothing about career tech ed. I'll be honest with you. I knew how to teach kids. I knew how to love kids, and I knew how to work with at-risk students. That's what I knew coming into this. But I knew there was a gap, and we figured out how to fill it. The CTE programs versus industry needs is the gap's like this wide. And I would go wider, but my arms don't go wider. And the reason being is if you've worked in the CT world, all the state agencies are into Skill Stack and the clubs and all the things that go with that. When we sat down with all of our industry partners, they were massively frustrated that a kid would leave a high school with a welding certificate, and he sat down and charted it out for you. He goes, he took homecoming off. She didn't go, to Christmas, missed 5 days for doctors, et cetera, adds up all the days of what was going on, and there's no way they can be a certified welder and have that certificate and think they can weld. So you're sending us students, they show up, they think they're amazing, and they can't even do the basics of what we need. So there was this huge disconnect between what the state CTE program was putting out there and said they needed versus what industry really needed. So we've worked really hard with our partners so that they know when a student leaves Elevate, that student's ready for their workforce, and bring them in all the time. We do showcases all the time with our partners. I think that's a big deal to have them in. They showcase their work and the students showcase their work as well. So that's always going back and forth. And then the biggest one to me, not the biggest one, they're all big, but is reciprocal appreciation. Like I said, you can be takers and pretty soon the giving will run dry. You've got to appreciate them too. Like the picture up there with the thank you to Walt. The one on the left is the group that gives us all of our pre-engineered metal buildings, R&M Steel. But the one on the right, that's a new partnership. Everybody knows DeWalt, right? You can go to Home Depot or whatever and get all the DeWalt tools you want. DeWalt now is sponsoring all of our shops. So when we open a construction shop, DeWalt fills them. I don't even have to think twice about it right now. And then they give us ongoing certificates to keep filling that. But at the same time, we could take the DeWalt tools and run, but no, you're looking at all the DeWalt reps that are standing in the shop with the kids, and the kids made them that sign in our construction shop. So that reciprocal appreciation is pretty big as well. So let me talk about building the system and lessons learned when you replicate. The biggest one is you have to stay true to your mission. Clearly define it and live it. The opportunities for mission creep, especially in our world, especially when people do flash money in front of us, are exponential, right? You could chase this rabbit, you could chase this rabbit, you could chase this rabbit. But at the end of the day, we have to get everybody in our system to really stay clearly focused on what the mission is and stay true to the mission, because you'll end up really messy if you start to creep. We've had some creeping, and we've really had to work hard to pull ourselves back to not be the gold shiny star for everybody. You just have to be the gold shiny star for the kids you serve and the ones that show up and want your program. So that's been a big one. The second one that is huge is operations. You can have, a decent school, but if you cannot have a great school without strong operations. It's impossible. It just falls apart. I'm not an operations person. I really had to slow my roll and back up and invest a lot of intentional time into building operations, because that's a big one. Culture for us is key to everything. We spent my entire year this year on replicating, because I went one school and then we built two at once. Don't ever do that. We built two at one time. I think I learned every lesson could be possible that year, but we slowed down this year. Actually, last year we put a school off 1 year so we could slow down and hardcore codify our model. And so I'm happy to say that after 12 months and a team of just really grinding in hard, we have a pretty darn strong playbook on what makes an Elevate, how we treat kids, how we act culturally, how our academic model is supposed to look, how we hire, what we're looking for when we're hiring. We've nailed it all down to find the right people in the right roles, because You know what was hard? One of our hardest things finding an English teacher, because they show up, and if Shakespeare's your jam, you're probably not going to make it at Elevate really well, because we read a lot of technical manuals on how to put machines together and how to build houses and blueprints and things like that. So hiring and finding talent, that ended up, and you have to love the kid first, not the content first, which is often hard in secondary education sometimes. So that culture has just been crazy for us. And then our academic programming, we built it to evolve all over time. Um, Even our charter's written so it can evolve over time. And the reason we did that is because the workforce today isn't going to be the workforce in 10 years. And so we wanted to build it so it could evolve with the times. Now, some stuff probably won't go away. But for instance, like a good one was firefighting. We started with firefighting as one of our industries. But city wanted it, everybody wanted it. We did it, but then we get to the graduation place and there's nowhere to place firefighters. You have to be at such a high level academically. You have to be, the marks are so high, and our students were just really struggling getting to those marks. And then, we had a student we have a local liberal arts college in our town. It's a really, really high end college, and their graduates were trying to get in the fire department, couldn't get in the fire department. And I'm going, we've got to disconnect with this program. It's sexy and it's fun to put out fires. We lit a lot of them in our first year. There's nothing more cool than having the construction kids build houses and then the fire kids burn them down. So you can have a lot of fun in the CTE world too, but the program wasn't meeting the mission of making sure every kid was getting where they needed to go upon graduation. So we did a quick pivot, we pulled it out, and we put in a full-blown manufacturing shop within some of the space that we had there, which wasn't one of our original programs. The jobs were there. So we pivoted. So that's where I go back to staying true to your why, really, really defining that, because CTE is so vast and so messy if you don't keep your scope right there on your end goal that you can go. And then one of the final lessons I learned was hire slow and fire fast. We made some mistakes in talent, and it about buried our school, one school in particularly. And, the red flags are there. Don't wait for many red flags or many data points. Firing's never fun. But it's so important to get the right people in the right seat going the right way if you want to replicate. And when you do replicate, big deal. In summary, so that's Izzy. Izzy's one of my favorite humans on this planet. When he came to Elevate, I don't know how many people said, do not let him in. He will kill your culture and he'll kill your school. And about 4 months into the year, he had killed our culture and he had killed our school. They were right. The cops told us, the juvenile detention people told us, the other schools told us, everybody told us. And we had a couple teachers that never, ever, ever gave up on that kid. Even my partner and the vice principal at the time, he was ready to tap out at one point in time. And we had one teacher that said, I'm this close to getting him, let me keep going. And so we did. And that was when Izzy was a sophomore. This picture was taken when he was a senior. And he brought it to me so proud. I was no longer in the building. I'd moved to start replicating, and he brought it to me really proud. And on the bottom of that little contract, it says the key phrase, and it says, will remain drug-free and whatever for testing. And I point at it, and I kind of look at him with a smile, and he goes, oh, no, I got it. I got it all figured out now. I can live that way. And so that's our why right there. The kids at the front, the Izzy's, all of that stuff. And now Izzy's working, he runs a backhoe every day. He's happy. He's making more money than my teachers are making. And he's figured out life, right? So this is why we do it. So my biggest one is be grounded in why you do what you do. Like, it's sometimes so easy to get carried away in all the other minutia. We just always go back and ground ourselves. My office is filled with pictures like this. Our grader office on the screen and our network office just flashes pictures of students all day and the transformations and the stories and what they're doing, so that we can always stay grounded. Know that the facilities are more challenging because they are more demanding, not just on the build and get started side, but the maintenance side is absolutely a bear. I have a full-time maintenance person now. She doesn't fix all this stuff. She manages all the stuff. And I'm at 4 schools, I might need another one because it's that cumbersome. There's a lot of things that can go wrong. Invest energy to build partnerships. You'll never regret taking time to meet people in the community and do that. And then the last one's build an amazing team, and don't let them go. You guys are awesome. Thank you. Thanks for letting me talk to you. I love talking Elevate.